When the Republic turned to the Empire, a lot of things changed, from laws to architecture, but one of the biggest overhauls was the military and navy, and Sidious was quick to get rid of much of the Clone Wars era tech. In some cases, he replaced it with inferior equipment. But why is this? Now, over the 2 decades that the Empire ruled, the military and navy was completely different from the beginning to the end, and this is strange within itself. In the real world, a military overhaul of this scale would basically never happen. Phasing out and in technology is a lot slower. For example, the F-16 fighter jet developed in 1978 is still going to be in service until 2025 in the US Air Force. But what Sidious did was totally different. By the time of the Battle of Yavin, every fighter in the Navy was almost part of the TIE range, AT-ATs and AT-STs had taken the role of the Old Republic walkers, and every troop had different armour and weapons than at the beginning of the war. Now, the reason in the real world we don't get a revamped military every decade is because the economy is much smaller, and as we know, Sidious had almost unlimited funds. He collected tax from a majority of the galaxy, and he spent a huge portion of this on the armed forces. But this doesn't explain why. When the Republic created the Clone Army, they created a very modern fighting force. Their equipment was top of the line, and Sidious replaced it, long before it was obsolete. Well, firstly, there's the fact that Sidious, who was wanting to rule an autocracy, needed a lot more soldiers and a lot more ships, etc. He needed every world to house imperial troops and strongholds, and for this reason, he chose quantity over quality. So, in the interest of being uniform, Sidious invested in a lot more cheap equipment. Well, not cheap by any means, but cheaper and far less effective than the Republic era equipment. The biggest example of this is probably Stormtrooper armour. However, I do believe that there's another reason Sidious chose to totally overhaul his military. The Clone Wars was a galaxy-wide event, and although Sidious used his victory in the conflict to bring it to an end and gain power, there was still a big stigma around it, and that's the problem. During the war, people had seen clone troopers fighting alongside the Jedi, the AT-TEs advancing on positions, and the Arc fighters flying overhead. My point being, the Republic army even serving Sidious reminded people that the Republic was once in charge, that there was once a democracy, and people enjoyed freedom. Not only this, but it reminded people of the Jedi who fought alongside this army. And for Sidious, the Jedi were best left in the past. The fact is that the old military reminded people of what came before the Empire. Something that Sidious didn't want people to remember. After all, remembering a time before the Emperor is to think of a world without the Emperor, and this is a dangerous notion. For this reason, Sidious wants to remove all trace of the past, all trace of everything that came before him, and that included the Grand Army of the Republic. But what do you think? Why did Sidious choose to get rid of the Republic armaments? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching, please remember to like, share and sub if you enjoyed, as it's really appreciated and it helps the channel grow. Also, don't forget to follow me on Twitter @TheLoreGuy and tick the bell for regular updates. But most importantly, thanks again for watching, I really do hope that you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time.